the lie was, I am enough. The lie is not, I am not enough. And that I think is going to be probably triggering to some folks. It's not our job to be enough. Otherwise, we wouldn't need Jesus. Like, Jesus is enough. That's literally the whole point of why he came. He came to be enough for us.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Follow to Lead podcast, a Christian leaders podcast powered by EBEB Solutions, energy benefits for every business. Go to ebebsolutions.com today and get your free energy audit. It might just save you time and money. Go to ebebsolutions.com and tell them Tony sent you. All right, friends. Today on the podcast, I'm so excited for you to meet Erica Gwynn. Erica and I sit down to explore her journey of cultivating a community rooted in joy and authenticity and emotional honesty. Erica opens up about her calling to uplift others. We talk about values that anchor her life, the intentional way she brings vulnerability into her work. We talk about her creative process, the way she curates ideas and people and items. We talk about the importance of telling the truth, even when it's hard, and how content creation has shaped so much of Erica's growth. We offer encouragement in this conversation to anyone who's ever struggled with consistency or who has wrestled with the fear of other people's opinions or wondered whether their voice even matters. I think you're really going to enjoy Erica's voice. I know I did. Such a great conversation, such a exciting new friend that I can't wait to introduce you to. But hey, before we jump into today's episode, I want to remind you to sign up for our email list. That's right. Every single week, we put something out in the Life and Leadership newsletter, and it's writing from my heart to you. And more importantly, starting at the end of December, in the email list, you're going to get PDFs that go along with the podcast every single month in 2026. So we're building something here together. I can't wait to tell you more about it. But until I do, make sure you sign up for the email list. You can go to twmilt.com or followtoleadcoaching.com and sign up there. It's going to be an important tool to help you grow as a leader in 2026. All right, now here's a quick word for some of our partners and my conversation with Erica Gwynn. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited today to have the legendary podcaster, author, speaker extraordinaire, Erica Gwynn. Erica, thank you for taking the time today.
Gosh, Tony, what an intro. Thank you so much for having me.
So I was spending some time deep diving into your life, and there are so many things that you've got your hands in. You do a lot. You're high energy. I love all of it. I'm curious, though, from a macro perspective, how would you describe the calling that God has placed on your life?
Oh, what a good question. I feel like I've been thinking about this a lot myself, actually, in this season, especially because I've always been a very multi-passionate person and someone where I guess I could call myself multi-talented too. I've often been like, wait, I'm good at this, but I'm also good at this. So how do I discern what I'm supposed to focus on? So I've kind of been thinking of it a lot more macro. And I think my overarching goal, mission, etc., is to leave people more joyful than when they first come into contact with me, more hopeful, and encourage people to just really make the most of wherever they're at in their life right now, whether it looks like what they want it to look like or what they thought it would look like, or whether it looks totally different, just to be willing to lean in to wherever God has placed them right now and find the good in that and see the good of God in that as well, whether it's, their dream job or something totally opposite. And whether it's the hobby that they've been fostering since they've been 5 or the career that they've been hyper focused on for just the past 2 years, whatever the case might be.
One of the things I love about that answer is it's so consistent with the rest of what I see your message is, which is a very outward facing kind of bringing people in, building community idea. I don't often see this on websites, so I wanted to read it and get your reflection on it. Under your About section, it's not really about you, it's about your community. And you say this: here we make the most of it. Here we seek peace in the process and we are patient with our progress. Here we find miracles in the mundane and magic in the messy. Here we see the rose for what it is, thorns and all. Why put those statements for your community when the page is technically supposed to be about you or about what you do?
That's a good question. Maybe I just deflected the whole thing. Maybe I just deflected the whole thing to not make it about me. No, but I've always loved the idea of having a kind of manifesto for the community itself, because at the core, I think something that I've also always really strived to do, or just felt really called to do with what I do on the internet, is make it a place where everyone feels welcome in a certain sense, not in a way that is necessarily like permissive of, okay, anything goes, whatever, but in a way that is respectful of everyone, regardless of where they came from or where they're at when they come to the table, to know that they are still welcome at the table and have a seat there, regardless of what that looks like. So yeah, I guess I just felt like that was a really important thing to lead with, in the sense of like, these are the things that I believe and the standard that I am setting for the table. And if you are on board with those things, you are more than welcome at the table, and there's a seat for you too.
What's the process been like in your journey of developing that brand of, hey, this is what my table looks like? I think that there are a lot of leaders who are listening right now who are like, I'm part of something, or maybe I'm building a product like a book or a company, but I'm not necessarily clear about what I stand for. And yet when I read all of your stuff, it's like, no, this is who I am. This is what we do. This is our table. This is how we get here. How did you get through that journey of saying, this is what I'm about, and you're welcome here if you're about it too?
I think for me, a lot came from seeing what made me feel welcome at others' tables versus what did not, and what was kind of a turnoff versus something that made me feel welcome and included. And a lot came from my own past of not being welcome and included, and being like, you know what, this is not the mean girl space. This is not a place where we gatekeep. This is so. And I was also privileged enough to see the diversity in my own community from the get-go of, I mean, it was so many different age spans and everybody looked different and felt different. But if people were vulnerable enough to share a piece of their story with me, I was able to kind of see a lot of common threads behind the scenes that weren't necessarily something that they were putting out there publicly themselves or even sharing with other people. But from the behind the scenes, I had that unique perspective of saying like, okay, I'm seeing what's kind of pulling us together here. And I feel like I'm in a unique position to bring everyone together, even if we're not saying, okay, here's why we're gathered all here today. But being able to kind of create a space where, okay, I can at least get these women in sort of the same vicinity. And if I can encourage the tone to allow people to communicate in a way that they might not have been able to before, then that's what I want to do.
One of the things that I appreciate about the work that you do is that it's very vulnerable. And I think that the leaders out there who are also leading movements or want to lead movements, I see a lot of them struggle with vulnerability. How do you know when a story is safe enough to share it with your people?
Ooh. I don't know if the story itself is ever going to feel safe enough if it is a vulnerable story, because I think by nature of vulnerability, you're putting something out there that you know might not be received the way you want or hope it to be received, or might just hit a really tender place. So I think it's more the heart position that you kind of have to be in when you are sharing something more vulnerable, where you want to approach it in a way where you kind of are going into it knowing, okay, this could be received well, this might be received, I might get backlash, whatever. And you're putting it out there, you're putting it out there surrendering how it's received. Ultimately, you're saying like, okay, if I feel called to put it out there, why do I feel called to put it out there? Do I truly feel called to put this out there to help people in some way? Or am I rage baiting or trying to get some sort of emotional reaction out of people? Like, what's my heart behind putting it out? And if it's truly because I feel called to do this because it will help others in some capacity, then me hitting publish is the act of obedience. And I can't control how it is received from there. I can't control how it's spread from there. It's just there. And then if it impacts one person and changes their life, incredible. That was probably why I was called to do it.
I think that's so beautiful. When you think about the values that that kind of filter out your decisions, Are there a couple that are your go-to here, the Erica values? I talk a lot about my core four, like faithful, grateful, generous, movement are kind of where I land. I'm curious, what are some of the values that motivate you in the work that you do? Because this is tireless work. There's always more heartfelt conversations. There's always more burnout. There's always more people to help thrive. Like it's a never-ending journey and opportunity. How do you stay motivated through your values?
How do I stay motivated through my values? I think I am just always trying to check in with myself on them so that as I'm considering sharing something, I can kind of go back and be like, okay, is this helping me? It's almost like going back to the kind of manifesto on my About page. I'm like, is this helping me help my audience achieve any of these things? And I'm always just kind of checking in with what is the purpose of me posting this? Like, is this going to move them forward in a specific way? Because I feel like there's so much noise on social media and on the internet. And there's so much where I see it and I'm like, okay, I see why it went viral, but I really wish it wasn't viral because this didn't really do anything for my day or anybody else's. Like I think I just have this hope and goal that if I'm putting something out there, people finish consuming it and they're like, wow, that was actually worth consuming. Like, it was something that moved me forward in my life. It was something that changed my point of view or helped my point of view, where it just really left me feeling encouraged or inspired. So if it's in line with that, I'm like, okay, we can go. And then there's like some fun random things thrown in there too. But then I'm like, okay, well, if I'm helping someone save money on a cute outfit today, I'm like, that's the goal there. Great. That's important for people too. We all got to get dressed. So,
well, I feel like one of the things that you do really well is you like break the tension of the heavy with like also check out these shoes, some lifestyle stuff, right? Like it's, which, it's a fun balance, right? Nobody wants to be heavy all the time or have the deep, serious talk all the time. It's just, we all need that break. How do you decide what you're going to, influence or share or show? How do you decide how you're kind of leaning into those? Like, I definitely want my people to know about this.
Oh, it's very much based off of, am I texting my mom and my best friends about this? Then I will share it with my audience online. Like, that's kind of my barometer of like, okay, is this worth sharing? Is it something that I truly am loving, reaching for all the time, useful in my everyday life, using with my kids all the time? Like, then that's something where I'm like, okay, I have to tell people about this. So I very much view it like that, where I'm like, okay, would I put this in the group chat with my girlfriends? Yes. Then I can put it on my social media for everybody too, because I'm very much not a gatekeeper and very much a girl's girl. So that's kind of my my barometer, if you will.
How do you're a mom of two and expecting, right? Is that correct? Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Congratulations. It's super exciting. And you've got this book coming out into the world. You've got the podcast. How do you decide what fire needs to be put out first?
Well, my family comes first. So if it's anything involving my kids, the day gets rearranged. And then, it kind of all flows from that, honestly, because they kind of run the show.
My kids are the boss of me too. It's fine.
Right?
My kids are a lot older than yours. I'm just a professional Uber.
Right? Like, they run the show. Like, if I get a call from school and my first grader needs to be picked up, clear the calendar. I got to go get my first grader. Like, that's not really up for debate or changing. So that pretty much is the main way that any fire would get put out. But then it also, I think things are changing seasonally a lot, especially right now with the books. So like right now, then, in a season of launching a book, especially, the book is then the first work priority. So then everything else is filtered on, okay, what from the book is happening today? What's the priority there? And then we go from there, okay, what's the next work bucket, if you will, that has to be touched on from there. And everything is just kind of like ranked beneath that.
I always love to hear people's creative process. And you seem like a naturally creative person. Yeah. What was it like, the creative process of putting this work together? That your book, That's Just Not True, is kind of a beautiful storytelling and also kind of truth showing against some cultural untruths that I think along the way, I would call it cultural theology. Yeah. Right. Is this beliefs that are handed down from generation to generation that feel like law, even though they're not in the text. So talk to me about that creative process. How did you decide what was in and what was out? Because there's so many to choose from.
There truly are. I think the first step in that process was breaking down the lies that I myself believed for years. Something I think that's really important and intentional right from the start in the table of contents is each lie or half truth it's in quotation marks, and they start with I or my. Everything is in first person there because we were going with what are the things that are actually running through my head, and my reader's head. It's like the things that you've actually heard and said. So I kind of had a whole bunch somewhere right from the get-go. I was like, yeah, that's in there without a doubt. I know we all are feeling it. But for any that might have been on the fringe, it was like me, my agent, my editor. We were literally just powwowing going, have you thought this? Have you believed this? Was there a time in your life where you thought that was true? What was the narrative running through your head? What was the narrative running through your friends' heads? Your mom, your sister? Like, we wanted the wording to be right because we wanted it to be really a felt thing where a woman would pick up this book and look at the table of contents and it would sound familiar because she's already heard that said, maybe verbatim, in the quotation marks, in her own narrative that she's been playing, maybe without even realizing it for God only knows how long. So we wanted it to be a very felt, ooh, yeah, I've heard that before, and now you're telling me that's not true? Okay, say more. I need to unpack this a little bit. So that was kind of the creative process until we narrowed it down to, okay, these are the felt needs that feel most significant and most timely, that like right now we have to crack them. Uproot them, get them out of her head ASAP.
One of the beautiful things about this book is the dedication page. And I love to read dedication pages. It's one of my favorite things to do. And so you write in the dedication page, for Mimi and Olivia, my before and after, may you always be free. And for all the daughters of Eve. Turns out there's a great return policy on what the enemy sold us. Let's go make an exchange. Grab coffee on the way. Talk to me about that.
Oh, I love that you noticed that. That's so cool. Because you're right. That's like such an important detail that we put so much time in as authors. And like, people might flip right through it and not pay attention.
It's my favorite thing.
It's so cool. Because you're right. They're so meaningful and there's so much like depth and thought put into them. Well, Mimi is my mom. So my before and after, it's my mom. We all call her Mimi. That's like her grandma name.
Love it.
And Olivia is my daughter, my oldest. And the book kicks off in chapter 1 with literally her birth story. So she's a pretty significant player throughout the course of the book. So my before and after, may you always be free. There were quite a few chapters where the root of the lie kind of came out from me thinking about how I am or how I want to be as a parent and what I am teaching my daughter. And in going through so much of this, so many of the lies inside they're things that if I go back to the root of when it became something that I was believing, I mean, some of them, we're going back to like 4th grade, Tony.
Sure,
like,
of course, yeah.
We're going back far. So I was thinking of so much of this going like, wow, if I could work through this myself with Jesus and therapy to the point where I am able to at all help prevent some of these things from taking root in her heart. Well, praise be, like that, what a goal to have here. And my mom has been my best friend for my whole life. So she played a huge part. And I would like give her a chapter as I was writing it and be like, does this land for you? How do you feel about this? Being the generation older than me.
Yeah.
And for so much of it too, it was causing so much reflection and processing for her, where she was being able to look at it going like, wow, I never thought of it like that. Or like, oh gosh, now I'm unpacking something. Okay, like we're going to go there. So it was just a really awesome opportunity to be able to see it helping my mom in real time and then have the hope of how it might help me parent my children better in the future for my daughter. And just being able to be like, okay, if I have any sort of role in helping break through some of the noise and the clutter and then let the Holy Spirit take it over for them from there, like that's all I can ask for. And that was the same for all daughters of Eve. I mean, I think that's something that all women will relate to in some capacity in this book. And it's something that I kind of bring it back to Eden in the conclusion of the book, where a big point that I want people to get out of reading it is that it's not this unrealistic sense of like wild freedom that I hope women get out of reading this, because I think that's an unrealistic expectation to set. So I would never want to set that. I am very clearly acknowledging in it that there's a tension that will always be felt on this side of heaven because we live between two Edens. And the goal isn't to eliminate the tension entirely because it's just not going to happen. It's to figure out how to actually live within it and find peace and a sense of freedom within that. So I say in the conclusion, like, the enemy is still going to try his darndest to give you fruit, rotten fruit, hoping that you eat it. This is not going to be something where you finish it and you break through lies and you're like, that's it. I've done it. I've figured it out. I'm good forever and ever. This will never affect me negatively ever again. Like, it ain't gonna happen. So it's really just to point out the fact that, like, hey, you're gonna keep being tempted with some of these pieces of rotten fruit. You might even take a bite of some. And the goal is just to keep our sights set on the fact that you can give it back at any point when you realize, like, hey, this is not what I want for my life. This is not true. This is not what God wants for me. You, at any moment, can send it right back to the pits of hell where it belongs.
I'm really curious. How did you tell your mom that you dedicated the book to her? Oh. Was it a surprise? Did you give her a copy and then she read it? Or was it more like, hey, Mom, can I, like, hey, this is the dedication page? Because I think those are tender moments in life that I'm sure I'm sure she was struck by.
Yeah, I actually don't know if we didn't have a moment yet.
So wait, she may not know yet?
I don't actually know if she realized.
This is the best podcast surprise ever.
Right?
Listen, I'm not going to release this before the book comes out. I'm not going to release it before the book comes out. So as you're listening to this, the book is either out this week or it'll be out just
I'm going to have to ask her because she has a copy now because I got my copies and gave her. I know she's at least on chapter 6 because she's reading it. She's texting me everything. And I'm like, I don't know if she noticed because she didn't comment specifically on that.
That's fascinating. Okay. I recently came out with a book. I dedicated to my parents, and they were like, oh, that's really nice. Thank you. And it was a tender moment between the two of us, right? Like, it was special. And so I was just kind of curious how she took it. And obviously Olivia's too young to really grasp it.
She thought it was pretty cool because I did share. Right. I did kind of try to explain to her, and she was like, "That's nice." And then when the actual copy came in, and I was like, "Do you want to see, honey? Do you want to see?" She was like, "I already saw it, Mom. It's cool.
It's cool. It's fine."
I'm like, "Thank you so much." It was this was I was telling her, "Do you want to hear what the weather today is?" Right. She was like, "Yeah, Mom, I already saw your book. It's fine. That's great."
I was like, it's 5 years of my life poured out into this writing. And
right.
One of the things that you have done really well is you've really niched down your work to walking alongside women. And I think that that's a beautiful part of kingdom building and what that looks like. Of course, I'm a dude, and a lot of the guys that I coach are dudes. And so I'm always curious about the idea of truths and lies and how you see it differently between from your perspective, between men and women, predominantly working in the female arena.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, for the record, my husband read the manuscript, and his first thought, one of the first things he said was, "Wow, I actually really liked that as a guy. I think I'm going to go back and read the whole thing again."
I love it.
I think the dudes will love it too. And I was like, "Well, thank you so much." What a compliment.
That's the most husband compliment I've heard, by the way.
Right? It was first wow. I was like, well, I'm so glad to know that you didn't think that you would like it because you were male. That's great. I think at least I'll keep it up with knowing myself versus my husband too. He's very, very good at making things a little bit more black and white, where it's just kind of it is what it is. It's either this or it's that. Go this way, go that way, and move on. And I don't know if that's the entire male species, but that's at least the male that I live with. That's the experience there.
It's a good chunk of them for sure.
It's a good chunk
of them for sure.
Whereas I think females, we play a lot more in the gray. I think mentally, emotionally, I think we have a lot more of well, it could be this or it could be that, or it could also be this with a little bit of that or that mixed in. And then maybe on Tuesday, it's a little bit different. And maybe on this day or with this person, it's a little bit different. There's a lot more nuance, I feel maybe for the female brain, where I think maybe we overthink things a little bit differently, or how we process emotions is going to be different. So I think the enemy uses that against us sometimes, as he can, if he will, where it makes things a little bit more clouded or a little bit more twisted. And it makes it a little bit harder, I think, for women maybe to discern, okay, is this a half truth? There's a little bit of truth in this, but where does the truth now become fiction? Where if it's a half truth, okay, well, a half truth is a whole lie. So that's where a lot of this gets really cloudy, I think, for us, because that's where there were so many things where we were like, wait a minute, sounds good on the surface, or there might be a little bit of truth in it, but there's also some not. And now we have to kind of break it down and make it a little bit more black and white if possible, to be able to go like, wait a minute, it's actually a whole lie. We're going to put it in the lie category if it is at all gray, because now if it's not the whole truth, it's a lie. So I don't know if that fully answers the question, but I think it does. The nuance is there.
Well, I think that's the important. I oftentimes love to just ask this from when I encounter strong leaders like yourself, because I think that my perspective is just so skewed, right? And I have this tendency, I think it's probably because we're just kind of inherently brain lazy, that like, I just think that, well, why wouldn't everyone think that way? And so being able to hear a perspective like that, it's much more gray, it's much more nuanced. It's such a important discussion. I also wanted to ask you about your blog. How long have you been blogging?
10 plus years, over 10 years.
So for those of you who haven't stalked her on the internet like I have, let me say this. So Coming Up Roses is her blog, and that's very old, right? It goes back a long ways, 10 plus years. Now, the podcast is called Thrive, and she's got over 216. This Wednesday will be 217 episodes coming out on the podcast. And so what that means is that you have been putting yourself out to the internet for well over a decade in multiple facets, multiple places, multiple spaces. I'm always curious when I talk to a content creator or leader who's doing this for a really long time, what have you learned about yourself in kind of sharing yourself with the internet for the last decade?
I would say have a lot more. I'm my empathy and my compassion for other people, I think I've always known that I have, but the longer I'm on the internet putting out content, sometimes the less I want to be on the internet putting out content.
Preach.
Because I feel like a lot of times there is not room for nuance, especially in short form content that's like very clickbaity, very scroll stopping, algorithm popping, whatever. There's not a lot of space for more in-depth, nuanced, longer dialogue. And that is what I crave. And that is what I think I am best at. And I have learned I am not like the quick fix, hot take person. And I don't want to be. I'm like, I would much rather have a smaller audience, never go viral, than put something out just for the sake of like trying to get famous or like make it big, whatever people's mentality might be behind it. Because I really can see I could see both sides, or I could see the heart behind things. And I can kind of like look at something and go, I bet you, like, I wonder what the rest of their story is that is not being shown on the internet. And I think that's something that you kind of have a more unique perspective on. If you are someone putting your life on the internet, you also know the flip side of what is not getting put on the internet. So it's a lot easier to look at someone and give grace because you know, just because you know, like, you know what's not, you know what you don't know, which a lot of people like to assume they know on social media, especially.
Yeah, one of the things that I just really believe that grace in action is empathy plus curiosity.
Yes. Amen.
And I think that that's exactly in alignment with what you're saying there. Is that it's just a lot easier to be empathetic because you've been on the other side of not empathy.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also, I mean, there's the lessons where I'm like, well, the more I'm on the internet, the more I'm scared of people who are on the internet, because you're like, you should not be anywhere near a keyboard, my friend. Like, please, someone take the device away from Carol, like, or whoever. Like, yeah, you're like, whoa, baby. Okay. So you see that too.
How has writing for the last 10 years on a regular basis change the way that you communicate with people? Like, I think it's such an important practice. We probably underestimate the muscle that you've gained in this process.
I think I've first and foremost always loved writing, and writing the book has been such a blessing in this sense, because especially as so much on the internet changed in terms of how people were consuming content, the blog started taking a back seat because everything was shifting to Instagram, TikTok, like these other platforms, video, where all of a sudden it was like people were suddenly disinterested in reading a 2,000-word blog post. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't want to read a 2,000-word blog post before Brett? Come on. But I think it's being able to then step back into this has been really cool. And I'm really excited to see how people react to it and what they get out of it. Just because my writing has evolved, oh my gosh, so much since, if I'm comparing the content and the quality of the content in this book compared to what I published on the internet circa 2000, heavens to Betsy, like I should probably go back and archive posts but I also left things up intentionally.
Sure.
Because I was like, you know what? I think it's helpful for people to see the growth and to see that, like, okay, yeah, who I was at, how old was I? I don't know, maybe 20, not even, when I first started my blog, is very different. I'm a totally different person. And you can kind of see that in my evolution of my writing, which I think it's cool, definitely cool for me to see, but also hopefully cool for other people to see, just to kind of see growth tracked in that sort of way and see how, from the writing style itself to the depth of content to just thought processes along the way, the whole 9 yards. I think that's just kind of a cool thing to see and celebrate.
Amen. I do deeply appreciate the way that you're so authentic with your brand, and you just kind of put it out there, right? And it's like, you can go back as far as you want in the blog, and it's all really cool stuff. And I think one of the things that you said in this dialogue that's really resonated with me is this idea that on this side of heaven, we're still going to wrestle with this stuff. And so it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a pain. So I'm curious, when you think about all the chapters of the book, and for those of you that haven't picked up the book yet, please do. And just know that, like, each chapter is a different lie. And so I'm curious, which lie still messes with you the most?
I am enough. And that's one I feel like I'll be talking about a lot, because I said the lie was I am enough. The lie is not I am not enough. And that, I think, is going to be probably triggering to some folks. But I think being someone who was always high achieving and someone who was overachieving, stereotypical Enneagram 3, the prototypical girl boss of, like, whenever the girl boss era was, like, I lived a lot of my life with my worth tied to my work and what I was doing, what gold stars I was achieving, the pats on the back and the good jobs. That was the fuel to my fire. And that was something that I just wrestled with for a really long time, thinking that it was on me. It was all on me to show up a certain way and to be a certain way, to win approval or validation or success, or just something that was like, you're good job. You've done it. And the spoiler alert here is, it's not our job to be enough. That's I think, like, the essence of that chapter that I hope people get out of it the most. Is it's not even that I'm trying to say you're not but kind of, I'm like, you're not because it wasn't your job to be. Like, it wasn't something that, otherwise we wouldn't need Jesus. Like, Jesus is enough. That's literally the whole point of why he came. He came to be enough for us. So we don't have to put on the superhero cape that we do every single day, thinking that it's our job to be the hero and our job to captain the ship, and it's like our job to get it right, because that's just really, really exhausting. And I know that that's the one that I struggle with the most, because it's the easiest to slip back into. Like, it's habitual. Like, if you've been someone who has been striving for your worth or to prove yourself for so much of your life, it is so, so painfully easy to slip back into that and to think, like, oh, if I just do this just right, they will like me. Or if I just do this just right, everything will be good. And it is a constant effort to not do that. And I also know that one impacts me the most because there's a certain part in it that if I read it out loud, it makes me cry every single time. And I'm like, that still gets me. There's still something there that has to be uprooted. So yeah, that one I think will be a doozy for anyone like me, maybe, who has lived a long time for love instead of operating from.
That's so good. I know that my community, the bold ones, they love to pray. And so as you pray, as this book gets out in the wilderness, and what's your prayer that's kind of associated with the book?
Every day I pray it gets into the hands of the women who need it most, because I think it really has the potential to be life-changing for people. And I say that because writing it changed my life completely. But through writing it, I had just such a strong sense, like I could just see a vision in my head of like other women like me where have just been bogged down by so much and they don't even know they're bogged down by it. Mm-hmm. So my prayer has just been like, get this into the hands of the women who like need to be made lighter because of the content in it, because of the truth in it, because every lie is countered with scriptural truth. That's the whole thing. Like it's time, like it's time culturally, but also I think there's so many of these. I've had conversations with people where they said, well, like, can you just read all the lies? And then you're like, bing, bang, boom, got it. Like, I know the truth. I am set free. And so many of these for me in writing it really had to be lived. And like I had to go through what I went through to get all the way to the root to be able to start pulling it out and replacing it with truth. So I really pray that it gets into the hands of women where like they're at the root, like they're there and like they're ready to be told, hey, like you have a lot of baggage in your backpack. Let's take some of the bricks out so that you can walk a little bit lighter because you don't even realize the depth of what you're carrying. We got someone here who can like help you lift it, help you carry it a little bit differently.
That's so good. That's so good. And I think we'll come along you well and pray that as well. So that's beautiful. I have one more question to ask you, but before I do, I know that the podcast family is going to want to connect with you all over the interwebs. Where is the best place to learn all things Erica?
You can go to ericagwynn.com/books. That is where all of the book stuff in particular is. So if you want to get a copy, if you want to check out, you can read a free chapter, all of that good stuff is right there. And if you want to connect on Instagram, my handle is at Erica Legenza. Got my maiden name on Instagram.
Yeah, you do.
Right? And then my podcast is called Thrive. So I'm also over there if you're a fellow podcast listener.
Great. And we'll link to all that in the show notes. Be sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts. All right. Last question I love to ask people. It's an advice question. I'm going to invite you to go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, but I get to name the season of life that you're in.
Oh, this is Tony. You got to prep people for this one.
No, I like it unprepped.
I'm like, how far back we going? Oh.
Listen, I want to take you back to the day that you published your very first blog. I think that was 2000, somewhere in that range. And if you could sit down with that younger version of you, that young woman who just put her words out into the internet for the very first time, sit knee to knee with her, hold her hand, look her in the eye, and tell her one thing about the journey she's going to go on, knowing that you actually can't change anything, but giving her one piece of advice, what would you tell her?
Keep going. Be consistent with it. I would tell her to care less about what other people think about her. I would tell her to set sights a little bit more focused on the why and just not it. But it's one of those things I hate doing stuff like that though, because I also so strongly believe that we go through the things we go through for a reason, where like you need sometimes care too much and then learn it the hard way. But I think that she would have probably been a bit more vulnerable quicker and maybe helped more people more through that had she cared a little bit less about how things looked or how things appeared. So yeah, do what you do, but like do it even deeper. Don't be afraid to go there.
I love that. I think that's good for all leaders too. So it's beautifully stated. Erica, thank you so much for being so generous with your time today. Thank you for your heart for leaders and just what you're doing to build the kingdom of God. I think that it's important work and it's good work.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it. You're such a great podcast and great interviewer. It's just been such a joy chatting with you.
Hey friends, welcome to the 3 and 5. 3 practical takeaways in 5 minutes or less. Number 1, let your values lead your decisions. I love this. I love values-based decision making. Erica kind of talks about how clarity for her comes from knowing your core values. Maybe take some time this week to revisit or write down your non-negotiables, the things that guide your work, your relationships, even your leadership. Get clear about your values. Number 2, authenticity builds real community. People are drawn to vulnerability. You know that, right? Share an honest moment with your friends. Let them in. Tell them what's going on. Share the real stuff, the good stuff. You may be surprised on how it builds connection. Especially think about doing this on your team where maybe it's not always commonplace. Number 3, consistency matters more than approval. Have we learned that here in the podcast or what? Man, just showing up year over year is one of the ways that we build into each other. Erica really encouraged listeners like you to keep showing up even when external validation is absent, when people aren't encouraging you on. Pick one area of your life where you have been hesitant to jump in for the fear of judgment and just commit to it. Commit to it. Email me. Tell me what you picked. I'd love to hear. One commitment action this week. All right, let's revisit the 3 and 5. Number 1, let your values lead your decisions. Number 2, authenticity builds real community. And number 3, consistency matters more than approval. Well, friends, that's our episode for this week. As always, I'm forever thankful for you, the podcast family, the bold ones. Remember to sign up for the email list. You can do that at the link in the show notes or in the YouTube description or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Thank you for being here. And until next time, remember, if you want to follow Jesus, you must be willing to move.